cut off from the global economy, buried under some of the heaviest sanctions on Earth, watched, pressured, and written off for decades. And yet Iran keeps pulling off things that shouldn't even be possible. Pulling the ocean inland across hundreds of miles of desert, running gas pipelines toward its neighbors, raising enormous dams, firing up nuclear reactors, tunneling entire cities beneath its capital, and rolling more than 1 million vehicles off its assembly lines every single year. The strangest part? Most of the world has no idea any of it exists. This is a country rebuilding itself under pressure, faster, bolder, and stranger than anyone gave it credit for. And the further down this list we go, the harder it gets to believe. Let's start the countdown. Number 13. The biggest shopping mall on the planet. Ask anyone where the world's largest mall is, and they'll probably guess Dubai or somewhere in America. They'd be wrong. It sits on the edge of Khitgar Lake in western Tehran, and it's called Iran Mall. The scale is almost hard to picture, around 21 million square feet spread across 7 levels. Built by more than 25,000 workers and over 1,000 contractors. At one point during construction, crews poured concrete non-stop for more than 5 straight days, setting a world record in the process. But walk inside, and it stops feeling like a mall at all. There are hundreds of stores and restaurants, a cinema complex, an Olympic-sized ice rink, sports courts, a theater, a convention center, hotels, gardens, fountains, and indoor streets so long they feel like a small private city. What really sets it apart, though, is how deeply Persian it is. One wing is a recreated traditional bazaar modeled on the ancient markets of Isfahan and Shiraz, all arches, domes, patterned ceilings, and hand-carved detail instead of plain glass hallways. There's a grand library inside holding more than 45,000 books and manuscripts. A mirror hall glitters with the intricate reflective tilework Iran is famous for. Add indoor gardens, a mosque, and a musical fountain, and the mall starts to feel more like a cultural landmark that happens to have shops. Number 12. Bridge that turned into a park in the sky. In northern Tehran, 2 green parks sit on opposite sides of a roaring highway. Most cities would connect them with a plain concrete footbridge and move on. Iran built something people now visit for its own sake. It's called Tabiat Bridge, and the mind behind it was Leyla Aragian, an Iranian architect who was just 26 when she designed it. Her first major project, her idea was simple but radical. A bridge shouldn't only move people across, it should be a place people want to linger. Stretching nearly 900 feet, it refuses to run in a boring straight line. It curves gently, widens into open plazas, then narrows again, so crossing it feels less like beating traffic and more like wandering through a park. 3 enormous tree-shaped columns hold it up, their branches fanning out into the steel frame, using around 2,000 tons of steel that somehow still looks light and airy. From below, it resembles a giant steel tree grown over the road. From on top, it's a floating public space with cafes, benches, and sweeping views of the city. In 2016, it won the Aga Khan Award for Architecture, one of the most respected prizes in the field. Number 11. The reactor Iran simply refused to give up on. The Bushehr nuclear power plant has survived a revolution, a war, bombing, sanctions, and decades of delay. Almost any other country would have abandoned a project this cursed. Iran kept crawling back to it. It stands on the Persian Gulf coast, near the city of Bushehr, and the story began back in the 1970s with German engineers, when Iran wanted nuclear energy as part of its future. Then, the 1979 revolution flipped everything. The Germans walked away, the work froze, and a would-be modern power station became a half-built shell by the sea. Then, the Iran-Iraq War arrived, and the site took damage in the fighting, leaving its future even murkier. For years it stood as a monument to something Iran had started but couldn't finish alone. Still, Tehran wouldn't let it die. In the 1990s, Russia stepped in to finish the reactor, and after endless stops and restarts, Bushehr Unit 1 finally became Iran's first commercial nuclear plant, feeding roughly 1,000 megawatts into the national grid. Its position on the Gulf raises the stakes, though. Any serious accident wouldn't stay an Iranian problem for long. And Tehran isn't stopping. It's pushing for more reactors, aiming at a long-term target of around 20,000 megawatts of nuclear power by 2041. Number 10. The railway that carved straight through a country. Long before the malls and reactors, Iran forced a railroad across some of the most brutal terrain it had. The Trans-Iranian Railway wasn't a simple line across flat ground. It ran from the Persian Gulf all the way toward the Caspian Sea, cutting through mountains, valleys, rivers, forests, and steep passes that looked impossible for trains. Work started in 1927 and finished in 1938, covering roughly 870 miles through the country's rugged heart. The engineering is what makes it legendary. Crews blasted through solid rock, bridged deep gorges, and threaded the track along mountainsides where a straight line simply couldn't exist. It needed 174 large bridges, 186 smaller ones, and 224 tunnels. 11 of them spiral tunnels that loop through the mountain so trains can climb or drop safely. Its most famous landmark, the Verisk Bridge in the Alborz Mountains, carries the line across a valley on an arch so high the train looks like it's riding on air. During World War II, the railway became part of the Persian Corridor, a vital supply route feeding the Soviet Union. A national line suddenly swept into a global war. Today it's recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Number 9. The hidden city beneath Tehran. Up top, Tehran is loud, jammed, and never still, but underneath all that chaos, Iran built a second Tehran. The Tehran Metro is the largest subway system in the Middle East, running for nearly 120 miles with more than 160 stations. Every day, millions of people flow through it, not sightseers, but workers, students, and families who rely on it to survive the city. While cars crawl above, entire crowds are already gliding beneath the streets. This isn't a tiny downtown loop, either. The network fans out across the capital and reaches toward nearby cities, suburbs, terminals, and the airport. And it keeps growing, because Tehran is far too big to run on roads alone. Inside, the stations aren't grim, forgotten tunnels. Many are wide, bright, and polished, with long escalators, tiled walls, and clean platforms, some decorated with Persian patterns and soaring ceilings that feel more like public halls than train stops. What's most impressive is that all of this kept expanding under intense pressure. Sanctions don't just hit oil and banks, they make it harder to buy trains, parts, and modern systems. Iran's answer was to build its own. In 2024, a domestically manufactured metro train entered passenger service in Tehran after passing its safety tests. Number 8. The pipeline frozen at the border. On one side sits Iran, holding some of the largest natural gas reserves on the planet. The other sits Pakistan, worn down by years of energy shortages and blackouts. Between them lies a pipeline meant to carry Iranian gas from the giant South Pars field into Pakistani homes, factories, and power plants. It's officially the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline, nicknamed the Peace Pipeline. The deal was signed in 2010 to supply Pakistan for 25 years, with a route designed to run over 1,100 miles and deliver up to 1 billion cubic feet of gas a day, enough to cook meals, power industry, and take the edge off the blackouts crippling Pakistan's economy. Iran had every reason to charge ahead, hoping to turn a slice of that enormous gas field into regional influence rather than leaving it trapped underground. And here's the twist. Iran built much of its side and pushed it right up to the border. Pakistan's side stalled for years. The obstacle wasn't steel or engineering, it was pressure. Sanctions meant Pakistan risked punishment for moving forward too openly, leaving the whole thing suspended in limbo. A finished pipeline, waiting at a line on the map. Number 7. Dragging the sea into the desert. It starts with a cruel geographic problem. Iran has long coastlines, but most of its people, mines, factories, and thirsty inland cities sit far from the water, separated by deserts and mountains. So Iran began building something that sounds like science fiction. Take water straight from the sea, strip the salt out of it, and pump it hundreds of miles into the interior. In effect, an artificial river flowing from the coast. Seawater is drawn from the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman, cleaned in desalination plants, then forced inland through long pipelines toward provinces that can't survive on rain and wells alone. The Sea of Oman project alone is designed to supply eastern regions like Sistan and Baluchistan and both Khorasan provinces, aiming to produce hundreds of millions of gallons of fresh water a day. But it comes with a warning label. Desalination is expensive. It devours energy. And it leaves behind concentrated salty brine that has to be dealt with carefully, or it damages the very sea it came from. Number 6. The industrial giant that keeps Iran moving. Near the southern port city of Bandar Abbas stands one of the most important things Iran has built under pressure, the Persian Gulf Star refinery. It wasn't made to look impressive. It was made to fix a weakness that could strangle the whole country: fuel. Iran is swimming in oil and gas, but raw energy underground isn't the same as gasoline in a tank. For years, refined fuel was Iran's Achilles heel, with sanctions making imports harder and foreign help riskier. So, Iran built a massive refinery to turn its own resources into the fuel its people burn every day. In the air, it looks like a sprawling metal labyrinth of towers, pipes, tanks, and burning flare stacks, covering more than 1,700 acres. It was designed to process hundreds of thousands of barrels of gas condensate a day, a light liquid that comes up alongside natural gas, and convert it into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel instead of letting it go to waste. Today it pumps out roughly 12 million gallons of gasoline every single day, quietly keeping the country's cars, trucks, and buses running. Number 5. Iran's gateway to the open ocean. On the southeastern coast, far from the crowded Persian Gulf ports, Chabahar faces out toward the Gulf of Oman and the open Indian Ocean, and that location is everything. Ships can reach it without sailing deep into the Gulf, connecting Iran directly to trade routes stretching toward India, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. Its centerpiece, the Shahid Beheshti Terminal, is a non-stop machine of cranes, container yards, warehouses, and trucks hauling goods inland. Early development pushed its capacity past 10 million tons a year, with far bigger ambitions to become a regional trade hub. What makes Chabahar's story huge is who else it serves. In 2024, India signed a 10-year deal to equip and run part of the terminal, gaining a route into Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia that bypasses Pakistan entirely. And for landlocked Afghanistan, which has no coast of its own, Chabahar is a lifeline, a way for food, fuel, and medicine to reach the sea outside the usual choke points. But it's never been easy. Sanctions have scared off investors and slowed the expansion Iran keeps chasing. Number 4. The giant needle over the capital. Tehran already feels endless, sprawling beneath the Alborz Mountains in every direction. But one structure towers over all of it. Milad Tower rises like an enormous needle, climbing roughly 1,430 feet into the sky, the tallest tower in Iran and one of the tallest telecom towers in the world. It's not a normal skyscraper packed with offices, though. Most of its height is a concrete shaft and antenna mast built to beam signals across the city. The magic is up top, in the huge head structure where the public can actually go. Construction began in the late 1990s. It opened in 2008, and it quickly became one of Tehran's defining modern symbols. Inside are observation decks, restaurants, exhibition spaces, and conference halls, all part of a larger complex built for trade, culture, and tourism. Its most famous feature sits near the summit, a revolving restaurant that slowly turns while you eat, spinning the entire city into a living backdrop, hundreds of feet below. Number 3. The car industry nobody sees coming. Car factories are probably the last thing that pops into your head when you think of Iran. Most people picture oil, politics, and crisis. But hidden behind that image is one of the biggest industrial engines in the Middle East. In 2024, Iran built more than 1 million vehicles, cars, trucks, vans, buses, and the engines and parts to match, all while wrestling with constant pressure on money, imports, and technology. At the heart of it is Iran Khodro, known as IKO, founded back in 1962, and now the giant of the country's auto scene. Its plants didn't just bolt cars together, they built the everyday driving culture of the nation. For millions of Iranians, one model became the symbol of that ambition, the Samand, marketed as Iran's national car, and even exported to places like Belarus, Syria, and Venezuela. Then came newer names, the Dana, the Rana, and the crossover-style Rira, plus early electric versions, proof the company is trying to reach the next stage even under sanctions. When one missing foreign part can freeze an entire assembly line, Iran's answer was blunt: build more at home, lean on local suppliers, and keep the lines moving no matter who slams the door. The result isn't flawless. Drivers have complained for years about price and quality, but it keeps rolling. Number 2. The dams holding back a thirsty nation. Iran's struggle with water is written into its landscape. Much of the country is dry, and the rain rarely falls where people actually need it. So, Iran became obsessed with dams, not just as walls of concrete and earth, but as tools to trap rivers before they vanish, store water for dry seasons, hold back floods, and spin turbines for electricity. Across the country, it has built hundreds of them. The clearest symbol is the Karkay Dam in Khuzestan province, one of Iran's largest, built through the 1990s and opened in the early 2000s. From a distance, it looks like a colossal earthen wall stretched across the land. Up close, the scale is staggering, rising over 400 feet and running more than a mile across the top, holding back a reservoir designed for trillions of gallons, with a power station capable of hundreds of megawatts. But Karkay also exposes the dark side of the story. A dam this size looks like total control, but control only works if the water actually shows up. Years of drought, overuse, and weak planning have dragged Iran into a genuine water crisis. In late 2025, power generation at Karkay had to be halted when the reservoir dropped too low to run. And number 1. The station honoring the Virgin Mary beneath Tehran. Deep under the capital, on Line 6 of the metro, Iran opened a station almost no one expected to find in the Islamic Republic. It's called Maryam-i-Muqaddas, Holy Mary, dedicated to Mary, the mother of Jesus. The surprise hits before you even reach the platform. This isn't a hidden chapel. It's a fully working metro station, with ticket gates, escalators, and rush-hour crowds. But step inside, and it feels nothing like a subway stop. Built near St. Sarkis Cathedral, one of Tehran's main Armenian churches, the station is filled with bright white arches, soaring curved halls, and artwork tied to Mary, Jesus, and Armenian Christian heritage, placed right where thousands of commuters pass it daily. Photos of Christian art inside an Iranian metro station spread across the internet precisely because they clashed with the simple picture outsiders have of the country. But it makes more sense than it seems. Mary is central to Christianity, yes, but she's also honored in Islam, the only woman named directly in the Quran. That shared reverence gives the station a meaning that runs far deeper than decoration. So this is the side of Iran the headlines almost never show, a country that keeps building against every pressure the world throws at it. If this surprised you, there's plenty more where it came from. Check out the videos on screen right now and keep exploring the stories most people never hear.